Okay, today's conversation is for the mom who has been getting whispers from her intuition for years and is finally ready to stop second guessing them. So I am joined by Kelsey Anderson. She is an energy, intuitive, spiritual guide, and also the host of Reclamation podcast. Kelsey leads women back to their intuition, their body, and their own knowing. And her work is rooted in the belief that we were never broken from the beginning. So we were just taught not to trust ourselves. And although she recognized her intuitive gifts from a young age, it took years of life experience and deep healing for her to step back into this calling and really reclaim her voice. So now she creates a safe, grounded space for other women to do the same. So today we are going to be diving into what it actually means to reclaim your intuition, what is happening in your body when you keep overriding the signal, and why you do not need proof to claim who you are, and what to do when the pull towards something more gets too loud to ignore. So this conversation is going to be grounding, mystical, but also so empowering. So Kelsey, so honored to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here and just be in this energy today. It's so lovely.
I love it. Okay, so first off, I want my audience just to kind of get to know you a little bit. So tell us your elevator spiel of how you got to where you are today.
Oh, yes, I love this. And packing a lifetime into this is always something that fun to do because we get to go back and look at our life. But the version of this that I like to bring forward is that when we're younger, especially us as women, we have these intuitive abilities that are more apparent and expansive. We feel deeply, we're feeling called to this nudge or this feeling to do something. But over time, it gets shut down. And I don't know if it's always on purpose by our parents or teachers or the places we are, but we get told, like, that's your imagination, or you couldn't be feeling that, or I love that you're so imaginative. So that's my story. I had a lot of these abilities as a young child. And then throughout the years, I was not comfortable with them or they weren't recognized. So I shut them down and I started really becoming more of like this people pleasing aspect of myself. I'm an eldest daughter, millennial, people pleasing part of it, neurodiverse. So I feel like all of that accumulated into this one great mask, like masking all the parts that made other people uncomfortable. If you fast forward to my 20s, I started into this spiritual awakening where I just felt like life didn't make sense. I was living someone else's version of life. I didn't know, I didn't feel happy. And not just like the fleeting happiness, but the day to day. This life doesn't feel like it's one that I designed or that I want to be living. And so that accumulated into tons of anxiety. And once I started breaking free from that, I was climbing the corporate ladder at the time. I was in business management consulting, and I started having mediumistic abilities coming in as well as psychic abilities in the boardrooms, in the meeting rooms. I saw it happening in my notes, in the way I was perceiving people. I would know things about them that no one else was saying or weren't being spoken out loud. And I found a teacher. I started with Reiki, and then I found an advanced energy intuition group. And from there, I've spent years learning. It wasn't until the motherhood spiritual awakening where I had my son that my abilities really came online. Like the psychic channel just opened in pregnancy and then postpartum. And through the challenges of postpartum that I went through, postpartum anxiety, OCD, depression, all of it, I had to rebuild myself from the inside out and finally claim these abilities and stop pushing them down and what I came here to do and trust my intuition and motherhood. And so that has gotten me to where I am today.
You are such a eloquent speaker. I can't wait to dive into these questions because I know you're just going to change so many women's life even just from this episode. So I'm
Thank you.
so excited and thank you for sharing that. So, first off, so many moms have been getting whispers and nudges from their intuition, like yours were for years, and they just keep brushing them off, like a little nervous, kind of like second guessing them or even talking themselves out of them because they can't prove like what they're sensing. They don't even know what it is. They can't put a name to it. So from your perspective as an energy intuitive, what is actually happening in women's bodies in the energy field when she repeatedly overrides her intuitive signal?
It's such an important and expansive question. The thing I want to say is that motherhood is a great awakening for this because we have to tune into the needs of not just ourselves, but our child on a level where there's not verbal communication. So it really awakens something in us to say, if it wasn't enough for me to tune in and I could ignore me, I definitely can't ignore what my child needs and what I'm feeling for them. So that's why it finds so many women in motherhood. I believe that. What's happening internally, I think, is that we have been conditioned to not trust ourselves because it's inconvenient when women are fully trusting their intuition and nudges over that of a collective narrative that is more helpful for the world we live in. And through that, over many years, through that, when we don't trust ourselves, it shows up in all areas of our lives. What do we want to eat? How do we feel about what we wear? Where do we go on vacation? What conversations do we have? It really just shows up in every area. So, in our bodies, when we start to try to tune in, it feels deeply uncomfortable and unsafe to be in our intuition, to trust that initial nudge. And it's even harder because we're taught that like linear thinking and tangible proof is what makes it acceptable. And so when we don't have tangible proof in the moment, only in retrospect, like for instance, when you have a nudge and you know that I'll go left at the stop sign instead of right, and you learned you avoided an accident where you could have been at the intersection in that moment and you had your children in the car. You don't get proof in the moment. You usually get proof after you realize that you could have been there or something could have happened. So it's tough to trust what isn't tangible. But I believe when we create safety in the very small moments, when we say, I hear that, or I'm going to choose that meal this time, I'm not going to let my brain override it. I'm going to trust that first nudge. We build enough self trust over time that the big things don't seem as scary to trust because we've learned from the small things that it was the right choice for us all along.
So deep. And also, like, just to even give what you're sharing more proof. Motherhood was, I mean, I've had, three different ones. And I feel like each time it's a different growth factor. And my third one was, I always said that he is the one who really taught me the hardest lesson because he was super sick with really severe eczema. And I do think that that coincides. And I know a lot of moms out there can relate, like having a sick kid and they can't verbalize like what is going on. And you're literally having to co-regulate with them to, share what is in their best, interest and what's going to even heal them. So now that I'm kind of through that, like it is so fulfilling and so beautiful that these kids can come into this world and teach you a lesson whenever they're not even a year old. Like I just think that's the coolest thing, and being a mom is just, I don't know, the most beautiful thing on this planet when they choose you as a mother, and how that relationship is just so thick, and
Mm.
they can just change your life like at such a young age. I just think it's the most beautiful thing.
It's so marvelous. And I want to just acknowledge going through that, what it is to go through that with a child that has that type of health issues where you don't always know what's going on. We had a similar story. I find that really interesting when women get brought together that have interesting coincide. But my son had severe eczema, food allergies,
Yep.
colic, I mean, name it. We were at neurologists, we were at naturopaths, we did every testing under the sun. I don't always share about it, but I think in this moment it's important to acknowledge that there are moms that are fighting battles that are unseen by a lot of society. And that is a moment of intuitive trust because the answers don't always match what you feel like is going on. And it's really, they are our greatest teachers. And to have that bond, it's so hard to go through. It like really can break you in some moments.
Oh
But
yeah.
at the same time, they're with you because you're able to give them that. And I just think that's really beautiful. You were able to navigate that with your kiddo.
Yeah, 100%. And thank you for being open. And I think it is very lonely going through that as well. So, being able to, wrap your hands around, other moms and be able to speak about that and how you feel. But I also think that, like you said, like you really have to get really quiet with yourself because the outside world from doctors and family members and telling you what to do. Because I mean, that was me. Like, I went to the allergy doctor and he was telling me that he was going to have to be on, a certain prescription and steroid and all of this. And I just had it in my gut that, like, that's not the route that we want to take for my family. And I truly think that that's what saved him. His skin is, we still have our ups and downs,
Yeah.
but just like, it it just made me feel confident though in myself as a mom that I truly know what's best. And I think everybody should have that feeling too, is like, just be sure, like, whenever you do go through those, trials, that
Yeah.
you are most quiet with yourself so that you can hear your body.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. I feel like there's so much there, and just wanting that for other women too, other moms. It's amazing.
Heck yeah. What is a like one practice a mom listening today can do, in the next like 24 hours, where she can start hearing her signal again through the noise of daily life?
Yeah, it's an incredible question because we're taught that if the practice isn't intense enough, quiet enough, long enough, it's not impactful enough. And a big part of my work is dismantling that concept. I believe that that is just another like vein of disempowerment that keeps us further away from ourselves when it's unattainable in the seasons of life as women that we're in. So one practice that we can do is what I call the micro moments of alignment. So if you get a nudge, you either acknowledge it, thank you, I hear that, I receive that, I've acknowledged it, or you move on it in a really, really easy way. So maybe it's something about your kid and you get a drop in about a need of theirs. You can either say, thank you, I acknowledge that, or you can do that first bookmark where you like research and learn a little bit about that nudge. Those micro moments of alignment build on each other throughout a day. And instead of 20 minutes of being like, I have to go meditate on this or I have to connect with spirit on this, you get to build 20 little moments throughout your day of trust. And I think that's actually more powerful and stronger than feeling like it's unattainable.
100%. I love that. So you teach this beautiful truth that we have been taught to wait for the proof before we claim the identity of who we are. Achieve it first, and then you're allowed to be it. But that order is completely backwards. So for the mom listening who senses like there is a bigger version of herself, like waiting, but is stuck, waiting for permission or for the proof, like, what does it actually look like to claim your identity first?
Yeah. So I think that that version of us that we feel like is outside of us and we're trying to get to it is actually inside of us trying to break free.
Mm.
And so each version that's ready to come up for us comes up through us. And that's where the discomfort comes because it's like, I mean, I'm going to bring it back to motherhood. It's like when your child loses their tooth and a tooth is pushing through the surface. It's a natural process. It's painful, but it's necessary. And it gives them something stronger in the long run. I feel like it's the same way with identity and with the next step for us. It's going to push up through the surface whether we like it or not. So do we allow it, make space for it, or do we push against it and try to put the tooth back in our mouth? I know it's a crazy metaphor, but we're all moms, so I feel like it might land.
No, that's
And I'm
great.
trusting it. So I think it's about making space for it and letting it bloom, letting that flower bloom through the soil instead of cutting it down. It's really that simple. So make space for everything that's trying to come up for you. And I think curiosity is the number one way we do this. If you have a curiosity to go learn something, try something, be in an energy, test it out. Life is one great experiment. It's one big game. And if you look at it that way, in a fun way, in a joyful way, then you can play around with it instead of being stuck in it. I like this version. So let's say that I want to see what it's like to have abundant joy in my day, and I want to just go out and just be like the kindest, most alive person at the coffee shop. I want to compliment everybody from a place of sincerity. I want to laugh. I want to put music in my headphones and dance down the street. I remember doing that with my husband in Paris when everyone was grumpy. We just synced our headphones in music and danced down the street together, and it changed the energy of our entire day, and everyone else around us stopped and joined. And so I would say experiment with your curiosity, because when you're curious about yourself, your higher self can speak through you, and you don't have to worry about the next steps. You put yourself in the way of the opportunity to find you. You're basically just placing yourself in the path, in the energy of the thing. And when you see the thing has arrived, you just grab it and you go, thank you. I'm going to take that.
I love everything that you're saying because I feel like this is a lot of the times like how I have really connected with my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
There is I took a course on this like I think like a year or two ago. I can't remember the specific law, but it was about the ladder.
A
Ladders
lot,
are
but it's the latter.
yeah, they're not very common. And so
Mm-hmm.
my coach at the time, she was like, put this law into practice. Like, I loved the way that she taught. Like, she would teach the law and then she would say, like, take a week or two to actually put it into action. And that is really when I started to like believe in a lot of like all of this working. But a big part of me, I feel like this is where, do you know your human design?
I do, yeah.
What are you?
So I'm a 1-3 generator.
Okay. Are you emotional or what's your authority?
Emotional is my authority.
Okay, I'm a
Yep.
generator as well, 4-6, but emotional too. But I
Yeah.
feel like I can always just sense it, like generators and generators. So I was like, I bet you she is a generator. So, but
I love it. The 4-6 profile is amazing and powerful. And I love that profile for people, but you have such a journey that you have to walk through
oh, and it's
because
been a
you're like a
journey
3
already.
and a 6 at the same time, which is great, which is just wild.
Yes, it has been wild and it is, but I'm embracing it now that I have a full scope. But I feel like this only just like complements your authentic self. I feel like if that's what works for people. I always call it like the treasure map to my treasure chest
Hmm.
is how I kind of explained it. So it just helped me just identify like what direction to go in and then intuitively I'd be like, okay, does that land or not land with me? So always believe in that first and foremost is your intuition. But I've been doing this experiment. I love that you said experiment because I always call myself a scientist because I loved science growing up. And I've been doing this experiment with receiving last week, actually, of just like every like a compliment, money, help from my husband, help from my mom, like different things like that, and just pinpointing like ways that you can receive because that's a big hurdle for me in my human design or a conditioning factor. So just doing things like that just help really hone in too. I feel like I love that you said experimenter because that's kind of the same language that I use.
That's so cool. I love what you said about the receiving, experimenting with receiving. Like, what a powerful practice to do, and just say, how can I receive? How am I comfortable with it? And then what else will show up when I allow it? Like, what an incredible and impactful practice to do.
Yes, still working on it, but yeah, it's been
Same.
pretty neat. I feel like whenever you're going through this journey, like seeing it's not instant gratification, like seeing the proof, it is hard. So like
Mhm.
how do you kind of share or teach with your clients or even yourself like to ensure that those are the correct shifts that you're like going in alignment? What are the ways that you kind of like celebrate that with your clients or just be aware of those things?
Yeah, it's really threefold, I feel like. So the first part of that is that you can do like a nudge and an outcome log, which I love. It's really tangible where you
Mm.
can just write down the nudge and then over time go back and reference it or like put it on your fridge and see where the outcomes happened after the fact so you can celebrate them. Because we're wired to look at a negativity bias for a lot of times or to find proof what's not working instead of what is, they actually escape our memory and then we don't remember them, so we don't celebrate them. So I feel like that's really something
Mm.
tangible that you can do to prove, to have the proof. The second part of that is also really interesting because I feel like when it comes to intuition and it comes to those moments and it comes to the things of like, well, this isn't really working for me, or I don't know what the outcome is. When we ask, it's this or something better. And so you can either acknowledge, I got the thing that I wanted, but it came a different way, or it's something better. And maybe I didn't get the thing I asked for, but asking yourself, wait, is this actually better than the thing that I imagined? Because sometimes our imagination isn't as available for the resources that could be provided for us. We can't think of all the outcomes. We can't think of all the miracles. We can't think of all the opportunities. So I always like to go, oh, wait, actually, this is different, but it's better. I feel
Mm.
like that's a big part of it. And the third one is you talked about alignment and you talked about how do we know if it's aligned. Sometimes getting out of alignment and being completely like off course or feeling like it's not working out is the greatest sign that the choice we wanted for ourselves was actually not the thing that was our intuitive nudge. It was something else. And so if you feel like, oh, this was an intuitive nudge, but it's really taking me in the wrong, in a direction I don't feel comfortable with, or it's not aligning the opportunities, I always say just roll it back and ask yourself again and give yourself permission to change course. So sometimes the pain and challenge shows us where we might actually want to pivot to something different.
So good. A lot of moms in my audience, were raised like religious
Yeah.
or in a family environment where their intuitive or sensitivity or, spiritual experience were quietly shamed or like told not to trust. As someone who walked your own path back to your intuitive gifts after being taught not to trust them, like what would you say to the mom who is just beginning to feel the pull towards something more and is scared of like what reclaiming her own knowing might cost her relationships or her identity or even like her sense of safety?
Powerful question. I also was raised in a church environment, church camps, Bible study, all of it. So
Mhm.
I had to let go of the good girl conditioning and walk back into my power through many, many years of just recognizing that we are all born beautiful and whole and with love in our hearts. And that never changes, regardless if our beliefs change, our communities change, or the ways we celebrate that changes. With love as a foundation to everything you do, you're not gonna steer yourself wrong. So if you are doing it through love for yourself, love for your community, your children, you will always be aligning in some way with a frequency that is just the most beautiful part of being human. If you're scared of not feeling safe, that's a big one. I do think that takes a little bit of time to create the safety and to create the trust. But again, you can say to yourself, I'm going to try this out and I'm going to see how I feel. I love to use the just hand on heart. I'm safe to do this. Like that's one I go to all the time. I'm safe in this moment. I love myself. I trust myself. I'm doing this from a place of love. I'm going to see how this works out because I know this. And when you start to practice that, it feels very strange when you start. I'll be honest. Like when I started
Super
doing this
strange.
practice, I was like, this is so uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And now I'm like, this is so beautiful. So I think there's ways to soothe ourselves to create safety where maybe we were taught there wasn't any. And I do believe that when we're in our intuitive self-trust and our power, we're actually making choices that are far better for our communities, our families, and ourselves. And those ripple effects are much stronger than living by someone else's desire for our life and then feeling the frustration, anger, misalignment that come with that. So I actually think we're serving everyone around us, including ourselves, so much more when we create that, even if it's a little bit hard for people to understand.
Yeah. And that's what I like want to bring to attention is also, these practices, like it is going to feel a little awkward at first. And that's the whole process. That's the work. And it's
Yeah.
just the repetitiveness. And as Kelsey said, like those like minute, you know, practices over and over again are what really make the, like I said, the lightning bolt moment.
Hmm. I love that you call that the lightning bolt moment. It's powerful because it is. You can go years of practicing something and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this has landed, or I know this. And it's incredibly powerful when it lands like that.
Yeah, I also have been practicing like the safeness part. And I think that is also a big factor for women in general, which goes into our like cortisol levels and our hormones.
Hmm.
And that is a big part of, why we do have a lot of like chronic, autoimmune inflammation is because women do not feel safe.
Yes.
And so one way that I've been practicing is every morning, like before I even get out of bed, I also do the heart and the belly, and I go through every appendage and just like
Hmm.
be grateful for every appendage, but also like I say the words like I am safe. Like I say I am safe like so often in my life. Like what you say out loud like does kind of it reprograms the way that you feel inside.
It really does. And the nervous system safety, the subconscious reprogramming is a big part of this journey. You do have to work on the foundation or the soil quality in order to grow the most
Ooh.
abundant plants. So if it's malnourished, it's going to be hard to grow the thing you want to grow. Part of my journey in my 20s when I was in corporate consulting is my body started breaking down. I started having autoimmune issues. I saw like 15 doctors. I couldn't figure out, and it was cortisol, nervous system related, all of it, which is wild. So it's taken years of that. I also had to stop blaming my nervous system for not being good enough and start loving it.
Ooh, you just gave me chills.
Yeah, that was that was a big realization of like we blame the nervous system and then it dysregulates it more. So had to stop telling my nervous system you're dysfunctional, you're not doing it right, and started saying I see you, you're doing your best with the information you've had, and we're going to work together. And so that is a big part of the foundation.
That is so beautiful. I'm just having like a aha moment right now because I've never heard it positioned like that, and that is so true. I feel like I'm having a lot of aha moments this week. As you said, the energy is,
The
very
energy.
much so higher, I feel like. But I feel like there's a rumbling that like I'm not being seen by like my husband mainly.
Yeah.
With being home with the kids, like you said, it's been a blessing, but also like hard work as well. And the my coach basically, she was like, "You not being seen by your husband, or are you not being seen by yourself?" And I was like,
Wow.
"Yeah, I'm not even like seeing myself," which place makes the self trust be hard, which means the safety. Like it's just a trickle effect to it all.
Huge aha moment there for me too, because I can see how that shows up where like you want someone to perceive you and see you and validate you, and your spouse is going to be the closest person to you to do that. But if we're not able to see ourselves first, it makes it much harder for them to recognize what we are not able to recognize in ourselves. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
When you said the foundation, I guess like what would you explain as like the foundation part of this journey? Like where would you recommend starting?
In the world we live in the business world, people talk about the foundation as cement and concrete building blocks, steel. I think of the foundation as nature, as nourishment, as building nutrients in. Everything in the natural world is about nourishment, not about some sort of like concrete, right?
Mhm.
Foundation. So
Yeah.
the foundation for me is any form of nourishment, which comes in the form of love. It can come in the form of food and nourishment. It can come in the form of community. And I think it can also very much come in the form of being acknowledged and seen in the spaces you're in. And if you're in community, friendships, relationships with people that aren't able to see you, and those are providing challenging for you, find ones that will give that to you, because not everybody will be able to give you that aspect of being acknowledged, but that is very life giving and nutrient giving. And when we have people amping us up and seeing us and letting us know that we're not crazy and they are feeling it too, and it's normal and natural and beautiful, we build our trust because we feel like we're not alone. And I don't think we were ever meant to be alone and isolated in this way. It is a modern world, but it doesn't mean we can't create a version of that nourishment. It might just look really different. And I think honestly, we're all trying to figure out how to do that right now.
Yeah. For somebody who like especially like a mom who like yearns for like community, because I do think like that is a big part of it and it's a missing link.
Mm-hmm.
And even for myself, I just want to kind of get your take on that approach to like go find your community.
I love this question so much because it's come up for me so much recently. And
Really?
yes, it has. I've had to try. I'm going to be so honest. I was like, I just want to find my community. I just want to find my community. And I was like feeling a little frustrated around it for
Mhm.
a long time. And this last year, I said, okay, I don't need to find my community. I need to be the magnet, the energetic magnet for the community. And it has come. I
Mhm.
have now 15 plus beautiful women in my circle. I am chatting more with anyone I've ever chatted with. I'm meeting new people like you here. That's this aligned, beautiful energy in this spacious conversation. We just met, but I feel like I could talk to you for hours. That's not by accident. I think being the magnet, putting ourselves out, and someone says, well, I don't have time to go search for it. That's okay. Just say, I'm going to be in the energy of someone that's in community with loving, aligned, intuitive women. And when you're out with your children at the library, when you're out anywhere in the world, when you're that energy, they will show up. Yesterday, I was out at the park and I was just sitting there and I just started speaking my truth, which can be hard. But I was talking about finding the glimmers in life and noticing the beautiful things and not letting people take the magic away from you, even if you're having a hard day. And this beautiful woman who was a grandmother, she was able to say, I love your energy. And we got to talking. And it was the most magical interaction. And she was such a special human. And I know that more people like that have come into my life since I've been the magnet and the energy of what I want.
So good. I have felt the same and I feel the same about you too. I feel like I actually joined like a local moms group and I was like the mom in charge. So like planned all these events and like barely anybody showed up and I was like, "Ooh, okay. Well, this is a message to myself that like I'm not in alignment." So I had to make a pretty hard decision like even though community was really important, like this isn't where I was going to find it. Well, now I'm like the membership I realize like is part of one of my offers and that's something that I'm really passionate about and I actually found out through my human design like that is like my calling like and what you have said of like building those like core women like that's where it's at but also with my podcasting too like meeting
Yeah.
people like you and like talking about the subjects that I actually want to talk about so just the surface level conversations they don't do anything for me anymore so like my community now like we said is like online so you just have to be creative I feel like in where you find it but trust that like the direction that I feel like is meant for you, it will flow though too. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that because I would have never chosen this at the get go. Like, I would have never done this. When I started, and thank you for that reflection of the being online. I think there's so many layers to that. When I started my podcast, I was reading my Substack articles as stories. And then I did an interview with a friend, or like we had a chat. We just like got together and had a tea and had a chat, and it blew up. And people were like, "I want more of this." So we don't know. We just have to trust. And now it's completely different. And I love the podcast is a beautiful place. Yours is to attract those conversations and they fill our cup. And then I think we can envision ways we go beyond that when it makes sense in our life. Like this is the first year I'll have an in-person gathering. And it might not be every year, every year or every week or every month, but it's enough to look forward to. And I know those 4 days of nourishment will be amazing. And then it'll be enough for the time after that. So we are actively re-envisioning it, but we won't know until we take the step what the next beautiful thing can land. And that's the hardest part, I think for a lot of people.
Yeah. But I also think like putting yourself out there too.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I mean, like you said, like you were reading your Substack, post and it was really scary. But now look at you. You don't even have an itinerary or a script or anything. You're just being you.
Yeah.
But that's one thing like I want to encourage mom too is like if you want the community, like you do like have to put the action into it. Like that's another thing that I've had a revolution on is that, it was all just like if you just sit here and manifest all day long, like it's going to come. But then I did that and nothing was working. But when you put the action to it is like when the beautifulnat starts to actually compound.
I love that you just summed up manifestation in one sentence. I don't know if I've seen anyone do that before. That was amazing. So you don't need to read the 20 textbooks. Just go ahead and listen to that sentence. Yeah, it's the energy and the frequency of the thing of it's already available to me, it's happening, and then the aligned action. And when you put them all together, you get the outcome. It's amazing. It's truly it was a great synopsis.
Well, thanks. I was just like misdirected for the longest
Hmm.
time. Like I'm sitting here meditating for 45 minutes and, nothing that I'm, meditating on is working. And then I started to realize like the action comes with it. So,
Yeah.
well, Like you said, I could talk to you forever and ever and ever. This has been so amazing. If my audience wants more of you, where can they find you? I'll put all the links in the show notes, but obviously want to allow you to explain it.
Thank you. And I love this conversation. I love the energy you bring. And it's been so nice to sit with your audience and be in community today because that's what this is. And I just feel really, really grateful for that. And if they do want to find me and connect, I am everywhere under Kelsey Anderson Intuitive. I try to give as much free teaching, resources, and connection as possible. So Substack, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, website is all Kelsey Anderson Intuitive. I have a book coming out called The Signal. Yeah, so it's
Awesome.
about how to trust your intuition through the noise of modern life. And it's every
Oh,
practice, every energetics, everything that I have ever done, taught, and learned over the last decade in a book. So that it's a manual, you walk through
when will
it
it be out?
in the next couple weeks. I'm in
Ooh,
final edits. I
okay.
know. So you can grab that.
Should
That'll
see
be
it.
on Amazon and everywhere else, all the books, the places. It's self-published, so it's been a big endeavor doing
So
it all myself.
exciting. What are you doing to celebrate?
Oh, I love that question. I really
Put
want to
you on
take
the
it.
spot because
I
you
know.
better be celebrating. This is a
I'm
huge thing.
I am actually going to book a trip back to Scotland, a little self discovery trip to go get photos in a place that's very dear to my heart. So I think booking that is the bigger vision of being able to go take a little time as a mom away. But the celebration with my family, we have a favorite trail hiking nature spot, and just being able to go splash around in the creek and be free from my phone and the internet for a while is like, I couldn't think of anything better than that.
Well, I can't wait to read it
Thank you.
and hopefully have you back on here and we can talk more about it because I'd love to read it and then we can do a deeper conversation on it. So, super excited for you. Thank you so much for your time today and we will talk soon.